Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blanks and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Hello, thank you for tuning in to the GSMC television podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Mr. Finn. So for today's rundown, we will be covering a popular crime scene documentary on Netflix. And at the end of this podcast, I will reveal my top 3 favorite series or movies in the horror genre. So make sure to stay for that and, definitely just keep your mind open to the different types of things out on Netflix. It truly is a place for horror. So for this week's podcast, we will go deep into one of the top 10 Netflix series out right now, which is called Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. So while we're talking about the Cecil Hotel, I'm going to basically explain why it's just made such huge headlines. The Cecil Hotel is a budget hotel in downtown Los Angeles, which was built in nearly 100 years ago. So it was built in 1924. It was designed as a middle-class hotel for tourists and business travelers to rest their heads. And right after the opening of the hotel, guess what happened? The Great Depression happened. So that kind of just made the whole idea of creating this hotel a little bit of a drag. It kind of made it harder for the hotel to thrive right when it was opened, right? So a lot of people are speculating that this might have just been something that kept it back, kept it from growing. Which, of course, a lot of things did happen around that time, which I totally understand. However, just kind of keep that in mind. So 2 years later, it was completely open, right? It was good. It was thriving. 1927. However, it was located right on what a lot of people like to call Skid Row. For those that do not know, Skid Row is a district that is long known for its condensed homeless population. It is surrounding the hotel area, about 54 blocks. But Skid Row is a place where just dreams are forgotten, goals and humanity are just torn away. Anyone left in that area are just kind of there to be forgotten, or just to be forever part of that system. It's honestly very dehumanizing when you really think about it. When you're just left with nothing else, what kind of choice do you have? Like, if you were to be just left in that situation, where do you go? Do you just try to escape? Do you try to go back home if you're rejected? But you know what? What happens if you earn a couple bucks? You could just get a room at the Cecil Hotel. The Cecil Hotel automatically becomes a hotspot for criminal activity and violence, just because of the surrounding areas and everything that's kind of going on in that time frame. So that hotel has been known for its beauty, for the crime, for the notorious scandals. And soon, that hotel is also going to be known for its missing persons, suicides, overdoses, drug dealers, and of course, murder. The Cecil is a place where serial killers can just truly be themselves, bad things will just consistently happen there over and over again. And if you weren't careful enough, you could be the next victim. In the Cecil Hotel's history, about 16 deaths have been recorded. But, if you watch the Netflix special, the manager actually states there's been about 80. So it's kind of between that 16 to 80 count. It just kind of depends, I guess, what you would count as, accidental or on purpose. About 12 were to be thought of suicides, while the others might have been comprised of murder or supposed accidents, including falling from the building, earning it the nickname Hotel Death. Full reports of the hotel continuously making headlines. There was, of course, more notable cases that turned people's heads, especially in the mid 80s to the early 90s. And personally, this is what I believe really made the Cecil Hotel the Death Hotel. As we enter, let's just think about, one of the most notorious serial killers that has cemented its name in the terrifying halls of the Cecil Hotel, Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker. Ramirez, better known as the Night Stalker, is the real life boogeyman that traumatized LA from 1984 until 1985. He was convicted of 13 counts of murder in 2 counties of California. Ramirez would invade homes, and with rhyme or reason, and none of his victims didn't have anything in common. Uh, it could just be about anybody that he just thought needed to, be in his way. And he never expressed any kind of remorse for his crimes. Now, Ramirez is someone that uh, just wanted to raise, something that day. He just wanted to do it just for the idea of causing mayhem. He was a genuine person that just wanted to cause violence. And that's honestly one of the scariest things of all, is someone that just wants to raise that kind of horribleness onto the world, just to leave, just to see if he could leave his spot uh, in the hotel or in the world. Just, like, it's very depressing to kind of know that people are like that out there. So yeah, honestly, um, he eventually stayed at the Cecil Hotel. So basically, he would go out, he would do his thing, and then he would stay on the 14th floor at the Cecil Hotel, covered in blood, just walking straight up to his room, and no one batted an eye. So if that kind of gives you an idea of what this hotel is, it's definitely not somewhere that you want to stay in the 80s. Um, and then, we have people like Jack Unterweger. So Unterweger was a journalist who would report cases and stories of criminals and discuss the criminal rehabilitations, often broadcasting these reported stories on air about the very murders which he would later be found guilty of. Yes, I said that. So think about it. Imagine someone commits a murder and then they just go and report it like it was like, oh, what? That's insane. You know, but truly they're the ones that did it to begin with, right? That's kind of crazy. So yeah, uh, Unterweger would, meet these local police to investigate, like I said, these crime scenes. He would even go as far as to go on a ride along with these policemen and just see the crimes that he committed. You know, I'm kind of getting some Dexter vibes here. Another good show that I would definitely recommend watching is, Dexter. It's about a serial killer that kind of has like that same mentality of He worked for the police station. He would go and analyze like the crime scenes, but it would be his own crime scenes, you know? So I'm kind of getting like that same kind of vibe as well. It's just really interesting that, you know, this man was a legit person that would do these kind of things. And who knows, maybe Dexter was based off this guy. Um, but yeah, so it's just kind of like interesting to think about um, that these two murderers kind of highlighted that hotel a little bit, making it more, you know, known from the 80s to the 90s. Um, but although what I really wanted to go through was just going to be the Elisa Lam case. And for those of you that just do not know who she is, uh, Lam is a guest who stayed at the Cecil Hotel and then just mysteriously vanished. You know, this kind of happened in the 2013 era. Um, she was just kind of like a new a new walk of life on the California um, land. She was actually Canadian. She just kind of wanted to venture out and just kind of see, what's out there besides her Canadian territory. And she was a very sweet woman. She, was book smart. She was consistently always writing on her post. She was really obsessed with Tumblr, and she was very poetic, which is just kind of interesting. What if curiosity kind of ended up uh, being someone's downfall, and in this case, it really was. Um, so yeah, like it's just kind of like it's weird to think about if you go into this whole other state just wanting to be, curious and, you've heard so many good things about it and you just want to like live what you see through other people's eyes, uh, in movies and TV shows, glorifying the idea that the state is just such a beautiful land. And like, don't get me wrong, it is, but it's just, there's just so many other things that people are just not seeing that can easily trap someone like Elisa Lam. Like, for me personally, I'm actually not from California. I am from Texas. And I've been to California a couple of times. And I see it as a very, like, glammed out state where, everyone's following, like, the latest trends, the latest fads. Uh, just really, like, something that I want to be a part of, something that I would love to truly explore by myself one day. And, you know, what if Lisa Lamb kind of had that same mentality? What if she wanted to go and just be someone completely that she is, not someone that, like a fresh start. So it's just kind of interesting because Lisa Lamb could have literally been anyone. She's a completely normal girl, and unfortunately, she was taken away from us too soon. So yeah, just the next time that you do go out and you are having fun at a different state, just be aware of anything can happen. Stay close with your friends. Do not travel alone. If you travel alone often, that's great. Um, just be aware of your surroundings for sure. But yeah, so we're almost at the end of the first segment. However, I just want to let you guys know that we are going to go more and more into the Lisa Lam case. We're going to kind of understand exactly what she did at the hotel, and then kind of like seeing, after she went from that, like how she died, what kind of theories that we have that we're kind of like brainstorming with. Um, from the series. So just make sure to stay tuned for that. And then, of course, at the end of the show, I will reveal the top three Netflix or Hulu um, crime scene shows or horror films. So yeah, just make sure to stay tuned for that, and we'll kind of go more into that in a second. Um, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just take a quick break and just kind of see, what we'll come up with next. So yeah, thank you so much, and yeah, just make sure to stay tuned, and we will see you after the break. All right, guys, I will. I will make sure that we are definitely going to be scared because that is my job. All right.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Network podcast. Like I said, we will go over our popular spooky and crime documentaries. On our last segment, we went over the Cecil Hotel's history and just why it's well known throughout the world, even if it's not one of the most prettiest topics. But, a lot of people have a strange fascination with the paranormal or the forgotten. So I am here to make sure that we kind of get more into that and, raise some eyebrows, right? And yeah, so just kind of going back, gathering all the information that we have on the Cecil Hotel and who stayed in those ghastly halls throughout the 97 years that it's been running. We talked about the Night Stalker, which is Richard Ramirez, and Jacques Unterweger, which is the most second famous serial killer to stay in those hotel rooms. But now I kind of just want to talk about Elisa Lam for a little bit, just kind of get to know more about her and what made her internet famous. So yeah, let's go straight into it. Um, who is Elisa Lam? Um, Earlier we kind of talked that she was she was from Canada, and she was a student. And before we do go into this, though, just remember at the end of the podcast, I will go over those most scary TV shows or horror movies that are my top three. And like I said, definitely check those out. They're definitely worth watching. They'll definitely scare you. So make sure to stay for that. Um, yeah, so Lisa Lam in the Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel special. Uh, her Cantonese name is Lam Ho Yi. Uh, she was a first generation Canadian born from Canada, um, British Columbia. She was born on April 30th, 1991, to David and Yinya Lam. Her parents owned a Chinese restaurant called Pa's Restaurant, which primarily serves Canadian and Chinese cuisine. Um, and uh, her parents ran the restaurant while Lam attended the University of British Columbia. Lam was an active user on Tumblr, using her notes and posts almost like a diary. So basically, what that means is like, I'm not sure if a lot of people use Tumblr still, but Tumblr was a very, it was kind of like Pinterest. You would basically go onto the site and you would, if you see something that you liked, you would post it. Be like, hey, I like this, or consistently gathering um, things that brought you joy. You could also use it as like a personal post. So if you wanted to just kind of post about your true feelings that day, you totally could. And yeah, Lam was a consistent poster. She was um, actually so consistent that the police were able to use her post on her case, which they actually featured on her special. She had one sister, Sarah, to whom she had, you know, been very close with. The two siblings shared a intense love for fashion, so they always sought each other out whenever they needed to talk about like their personal feelings, personal topics, or if they just wanted to, just talk about their day or talk about, what cute boys they liked that day. It was kind of like at that level, which was it's pretty nice if you have siblings. Yeah, and one day she just decided that um, her life was just kind of at a weird situation where she wanted to break free from, which I totally understand. When you're 21 and you're just kind of like trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, um, the best option normally for a lot of college students is to travel. So traveling could honestly just be a little bit of a excitement, something new, something different. So she decided to take a trip down to the American West Coast and experience that part of the world alone. And of course, her parents were a bit wary of that. However, Elisa made her way, to Los Angeles, California. Uh, it was about in late January of 2013. Her family did make sure to have her call her every day. It was almost like a routine, which is really great, if you have like very like respectable parents like that. Very, making sure that everyone is good, making sure that you're safe. Um, but one day she just didn't answer, and that's kind of when things started happening. So when she did miss that, like when she did miss a day, and didn't respond to any messages, her parents did report of a missing persons report, and Elisa was last seen on January 31st, and her parents had let the authorities know about her fears on February 1st. So for those that don't really know how the Cecil Hotel works, it's kind of like you have like two options. And the hotel actually has a deal with the city about this. Um, it's a place where you could take in homeless, or it's a super like extravagant fancy hotel. So with that cheaper option, you are able to share a room with a stranger for a cheaper price on the fifth floor. Um, so when you share a room with somebody, of course, you kind of always have um, different experiences. But one thing that was kind of interesting was Lamb did share a room with somebody, but her tenants did report of Lamb's odd behavior. So she was eventually assigned her own room. And one thing that is a little more interesting too is uh, Lamb had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. So kind of going back to that, to Tumblr, a lot of her posts were a little bit depressing, um, or maybe like a cry for help. Um, Tumblr is just kind of something that a lot of people, or maybe not like a lot, but like some people can kind of use it, like I said, as a personalized diary for anyone to read. Um, But when you're just so alone, you kind of get lost in the idea of, revealing your thoughts out to people, or seeing if anyone else can connect with you, seeing if, maybe you could find someone else that's feeling the same thing as you. And I personally feel like Lam kind of had that mentality when she was writing. Um, and you can definitely see all of her posts. Her Tumblr page is actually still active right now, so it's it's a little eerie, honestly, but it is really interesting to know, if you want to know more about her. But yeah, so she was prescribed 4 different medications: um, Wellbutrin, Lamictal, Seroquel, and Effexor, to treat her disorders. According to her family, which they supposedly kept some mental illness history a secret, Lam had absolutely no history of suicidal attempts or ideas, but they did claim that she had previously gone missing for a brief period. So that kind of like raises the idea that maybe she just decided to up and leave one day, or this was her time to start like a new life or start something new. Um, you know, she was actually failing her classes at her university. Um, so maybe she just wanted to kind of just, you know, like, what if this was just something that, like, hey, I want to try something new. I want to just go off and do my own thing without really telling anybody. But it ended up, going for the worse. So, yeah, like, I guess it's just kind of trying to understand what is the key to understanding her strange behavior. Um, and just kind of like nitpicking that and seeing, maybe this was something that was planned. Maybe she really did just want to go to California and just try something new by herself, and she just never told her parents or her sister or anyone. But the thing that really just kind of raises eyebrows is uh, exactly what led her to her death. Uh, and there actually is a video of her kind of just her acting very strangely in a elevator that surfaced via internet. It was just it was just the most strangest thing that anyone could really see in person, because she had like a mixed emotions. She would go from happy to sad in the video and act like there was something or someone with her. Um, and she ended up missing for about 2 days after that. So, you know, honestly, I can't really like make sense of it. It's just mind blowing, honestly. Um, but yeah, so well, honestly, we'll go into that in a little bit, into our next segment. More about the breakdown of what she was doing in that video, which I can actually send a link to as well if you guys are interested. Um, but yeah, so for our next segment, like I said, we'll go over that, and then uh, make sure to stay to the end of the podcast, just because we will go over those 3 different crime shows, or top favorite scary movies, or shows that I really recommend watching that is super underrated. A lot of people probably have not watched these yet, and yeah, just make sure to stay tuned for that. And we will go over our final last segment. Um, like the breakdown of the Elisa Lam video, and exactly what are the theories that people are holding on to at the moment. But yeah, this is honestly just something that is just really, really interesting. I really hope that you guys are enjoying this. I personally really do love the idea of uh, breaking down surveillance videos or something that is new and fresh, because this is something that has never really happened before. Um, of course, we have like serial killers and horrible stuff going on, but this is probably the closest that we have to a paranormal video that surfaced the world and has everyone questioning, who exactly was Elisa Lam and why did she go out this way? And it's still being talked about today. They literally made a Netflix show about her. Like that's just it's just a lot. It's so much to take in, which I totally understand. I just want to let you guys know that I'm here for you. And if you ever do want to talk about any of this kind of stuff, you could always just reach out to me, and I'll make sure to give you as much information as I can. If you're feeling alone, hey, I'm also going to be here. I'll be your friend. I definitely want to just make sure that everyone is in a good, safe space and headspace, and feel like they are truly loved. So that's it for this segment. We'll definitely go into the next one and kind of go over that breakdown. But yeah, thank you guys for staying for this, and we'll see you after the commercial break. And we'll go over, like I said, the breakdown of the Cecil Hotel video.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
GSMC Network Podcast. As previously stated on our last video, we kind of went over the Elisa Lam, like Elisa Lam in general, and just kind of like who she was as a person. A little bit of some theories that might pop out later in the segment. But today I definitely just wanted to go over the breakdown of her elevator video. So for those that don't know, there was a video that surfaced on the internet of basically Elisa Lam, with like her final night before she ended up vanishing. Is she went into this elevator and she was just acting so strange, and I'll definitely go over like the breakdown of that. It's still like mind-boggling to try to understand exactly what happened. But before we do go into that, though, I do want to go ahead and just let you know that staying tuned for this next couple segments. I will go over the top 3 movies and scary series on Netflix right now. It's pretty interesting. A lot of people don't really think about these different series and horrors on the platform, but I'm like a really big horror movie buff kind of guy, so it's definitely something to worth looking at. I also absolutely love Halloween. I know it's not relevant, but hey, Halloween is pretty awesome. So I'm pretty like submerged into that horror mindset. So definitely look into that if you're interested in something new. Um, but yeah, let's go ahead and just kind of talk about the Elisa Lam video, or as we like to call the elevator video. All right, so Elisa Lam, according to police records, and this is kind of like just backtracking a little bit, she rented a room at the Cecil Hotel on January 31st, 2013, with a shared room with other tenants. And this is before she got, kicked out. But while she was renting, um, she went out and she kind of explored out a little bit. I believe that she went to the zoo in San Diego for a little bit. And Lisa Lam had a really big fascination for books. She absolutely loved them. She loved to just kind of go off and, you know, find a book from different parts of like different like areas, like different states or different cities. Um, and ironically, she actually went to this bookstore called The Last Bookstore, which is located in Los Angeles, California. If you haven't been there, definitely check it out. They're still open and they're still, thriving. Um, but yeah, so she went there to purchase some books to take, back home from her travels. Um, and after the bookstore, she's said to go back to the hotel with two men carrying her box of books. Um, so of course that kind of like raises some eyebrows, thinking like, oh, these men did it or they did something, right? Um, the funny thing about that though is that there is video evidence and police recordings that these men literally just went to the hotel. They probably chatted, talked, whatever, dropped off the books, and then they left. And Lisa Lam was fine. Um, she was just kind of doing her own thing. She was kind of like a flirty person. She really wanted to meet random strangers, or she really liked the idea of just getting involved with someone new, um, which is like totally understandable. When you're at a new place, you want to like meet new people. Sometimes Lisa Lam was very extroverted. She had no filter. She was very loud. She was a very loud woman. Um, but she was also very sweet. She was very kind, very caring, and she just wanted, to make friends, which I totally get. She was a bit of a lonely soul, but definitely a amazing poet, amazing writer, very self-involved in those um, like those books. So totally makes sense that she would go to this last bookstore. Um, but yeah, so those two men left, and they just nothing else happened after that. Uh, the police say that the two men left and that there wasn't any evidence that they came back and have been ruled out as suspects. But sometime between that point and the next morning, Elisa Lam would have disappeared completely. She left all of her belongings in the hotel room, including like her passport, her wallet, her purse, just general clothes, just everything, you know. Um, and that just kind of like raises some eyebrows, like what's going on? Like, is there something more here that we're just not seeing? Um, so during the investigation, the police recovered a surveillance video of Elisa in the elevator acting strange. With no real leads from this video, the police would release this video in hopes of someone to recognize, um, this person, her movements, and any kind of information that they could know about from that night. Um, and this is when things, blew up. Uh, the video did find its way to YouTube and got over 20 million views in days. The video was just completely popping up in other countries and was spreading like wildfire. Uh, and the video was just so strange to a lot of people that they really couldn't, understand it. They couldn't break it down. So of course there were some people that are like professionals in like hand gestures or video editing. So the analysis starts, just by Elisa entering the lift. Uh, there's no sign of fear. Her wide arms are just kind of like swinging, taking strides. So that kind of just shows that she was very like relaxed. She wasn't really in a rush. Uh, but she was seen just pressing the buttons, all the buttons, moving towards the back of the lift, still relaxed with her hands by her side. Um, she then looks out of the lift, uh, kind of like in a playful way, um, and moves to the corner of the elevator. Then her hands just kind of like get like a little closer. Her feet starts getting closer, um, which is now kind of like showing that maybe she had some kind of like anxiety from this, or maybe she was kind of freaking out a little bit. However, one thing that a lot of people just have not noticed about this video is that she shows a mischievous smile on her face while she's doing this, uh, which is kind of creepy, right? But if you notice in that elevator video, her mouth is blurred, her face is blurred, but you can kind of make out that she's smiling. It's a little pixelated, but it does hide the fact that she is smiling. So, you know, uh, Elisa then steps out of the elevator again, kind of like in a playful way. But for a couple of seconds, her hands then again kind of like get closer to her body, and her feet widened, um, and it just kind of shows that she's still like a little confident, but like what's going on? Like it doesn't seem like she's just completely being like attacked or anything, but she's just kind of playing around in the elevator, which is a little like interesting, I guess. But it just shows that she wasn't consistent with fear. But for the next interesting parts of that video, for about 12 seconds, um, Alisa has her elbows out completely with her armpits exposed. She has her hands in her hair, and she's just kind of being very like slow about it. Uh, she kind of shows that she's just very like passionate. Granted, like everything I'm saying, like if you like watch the video, she's literally doing all this, and it's just kind of interesting. Like I don't know why she did this, but this is just kind of like what's making someone, raise their eyebrows, like trying to understand exactly where she's coming from. But yeah, so she keeps her hands up. She goes back into the elevator. Uh, she puts her hands on the door. Um, she starts feeling a little lightheaded, and then she's clearly acting really mischievous again. And then she presses multiple buttons again. Um, After leaving the elevator again, she puts her hand behind her ears, uh, which kind of shows that she's wanting to become more like courageous. She kind of feels like her anxiety is no longer there. But yeah, then she kind of starts gesturing with her hands, her body language, and then she's smiling again. Um, which it I know it sounds really weird, but like how can someone have multiple expressions and personalities within like split seconds, you know, and just be completely fine, um, but not fine, you know? And like in this video, it shows her acting so odd. Like split seconds, she changes from happy to sad to stressed to sad, just messing around with her body, and it's all caught in film, you know? Uh, but kind of like going more towards the video, she starts, having a look of fear in her eyes. She goes up on her toes, and her right foot several times. But it's interesting because there are some theories about why she was doing this and why she was just so bizarre. A lot of paranormal theories, which we'll go to in the next segment. But one thing that just really like it's just so strange is that um, people are saying that a whole 53 seconds of the video has been removed, and this could show another person there with Elisa Lam. So it was edited out supposedly, but people also think that the video may have been slowed down at some points to make her movements appear more strange, and may have noticed that the elevator doesn't totally, the elevator um, suddenly jumps at the 257 mark as though the video has been edited. But the thing is like, there was no way that anyone could have edited this video. You want to know why? The video was literally recorded through a surveillance camera at the hotel. So if it was edited and it's not, that would mean that someone would have to be working in the surveillance cams, film it, and edit it. So maybe they could have been part of it. Maybe someone could have done something to that video to make it just completely odd. But yeah, there is no tampering. Like, the police have recorded that there is no tampering of the video. But the elevator, like, as all this is happening, does not close. It's just completely open as she's doing all of this. And then when she decides to leave, the elevator abruptly slowly closes. And it just keeps it that way for a good minute. So there's a lot. Which we'll go over in the next segment. And this is all we have for the third segment. So we'll definitely go over more about it and the theories in a second. But yeah, so just make sure that we stay tuned for that next segment. At the end of that segment, we will go over the top three shows and movies of what to watch on Netflix. But yeah, thank you so much, and we will see you after the break. And cut.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
To the GSMC Network podcast. So from our last segment, we kind of like went with the breakdown of exactly what Elisa Lam was doing in the elevator. More about like the factual stuff of like what she was doing and just like the oddities that we witnessed. But in this next segment, we will go over the theories of what we have that just made the video so viral, and exactly what we can come up with it. But at the end, I will go ahead and go over the final three series and movies that I definitely recommend watching. Big horror fan here, like I said. So if you stay tuned for that, I will give you a breakdown of those like quick things and explain why that they're so great. But yeah, so moving forward, let's go ahead and talk about the theories of Elisa Lam's elevator video. All right, so police, after reviewing the entirety of the footage, they found that she never left the hotel, which promoted a complete search from top to bottom. Although in the initial search, they checked the roof and nothing was found. So they checked the hotel from top to bottom, found nothing. The maintenance worker eventually found, unfortunately, Lamb's body floating in one of the water tanks. Yeah, so that must be very scarring. They found the body. They were really confused how she got there, and the worst part of it all is the reason why they decided to check the water tanks is there were numerous complaints about the water being discolored, the sink, people brushing their teeth, and that it tasted awful. So yeah, can you imagine just waking up one day, brushing your teeth, and they're just like, "What is this?" So they definitely reported that, and then the person that's found the body was completely mortified, which I totally understand. That's a lot to take in. So yeah, and that kind of brings us just to more of the theories about how exactly did she end up in that water tank, and you know they found her on a February 16th. So she was in that water tank for about 15 days. So you can kind of understand just, what state she was in. Um, but yeah, so the many theories that have been circulating by millions of people on their internet is that theories that may have people believe that, theory number one is just being that someone that stayed at the hotel or worked at the hotel as well led Lisa Lam to the rooftop and pushed her into the roof tank. So that kind of goes back to that surveillance video. Like, what if someone tampered with the video and led poor Lisa Lam to her death and pushed her in? And it would make a lot of sense because that video or that hotel is just there's just so much going on, like in this past 100 years, that there's been so many deaths, there's been so many murders, and it honestly could just be a possibility. But the thing is that with that theory being backed up by the surveillance footage appearing, that someone else might have helped Lisa Lam um, uh, into the water tank, but at the same time, you know, the hotel video could not have been edited, um, but it does kind of look like she's talking to somebody. So it just kind of goes back and forth, like trying to figure out exactly, what's going on. So, although the police have confirmed that no one at the hotel had the capability to edit that video, it just kind of like raises more eyebrows, right? And the next theory that I did want to go over was just going to be that maybe something paranormal happened, right? Um, I know that's kind of like the most obvious thing I feel like people would assume is that, the hotel is completely haunted and maybe just, she was doing something that she probably shouldn't be doing, right? Um, just due to the hotel's long history of death, it can be said that Elisa's fate was tied to the hotel's history. Um, some ghost experts have actually come to the hotel and kind of did like their own search, like ghost adventures, coming to that location, doing a couple episodes at the Cecil Hotel, thinking that the paranormal has something to do with Lamb's death. Um, but honestly, like, that's kind of just like, I don't know. If you're more of like a logical person or you're more of like a spiritual person, you'll kind of believe like both sides. But personally, I feel like it could have been something paranormal. Just like the fact that her acting strange in that elevator. She was completely erratic. She was you know bouncing around, acting so scared and so innocent at the same time. It's just hard to believe that someone, as logical as Lisa Lam, like brilliant writer and poet, could have done something like that to herself. Um, but yeah, like there is this theory that there's this thing called like the elevator game, which basically what that is like you go into the elevator and you press like all of the elevator buttons, and you basically just kind of like you go into like another like dimension, right? And that dimension could be down there. So I don't know. It's definitely like a theory. It's definitely something that could be an idea, but just like the way that she was, acting, we could have been seeing something paranormal and didn't even like really think twice about it. Uh, because like in all honesty, like when anything does happen in that kind of way, do we really see it at first glance? Do we really understand what's happening until we experience it firsthand? Personally, I am a believer of ghosts. I have seen ghosts before in the past, and they've definitely seen me. But maybe this was something that Elisa Lam was experiencing by herself, and we just kind of witnessed it through camera, and we just couldn't, understand it. But yeah, I don't personally think she was in that elevator game, but definitely something paranormal happened here. Uh, a lot of people are also speculating that maybe Richard Ramirez is still tied to the hotel, um, and could have possessed her, or something in that kind of idea, that mindset, that she was possessed by a ghost or possessed by another soul and brought her to her death. There's just so many like different speculations here. Some people also might have think that maybe, like I said, someone at the hotel just might have just done that to her, or maybe she even just did it to herself. Maybe she was just completely, um, her emotions were tied to her health. That she wanted to start like a new life, and she wanted to do her own thing, but she realized that maybe she had nowhere else to go, and she wanted to just feel something in her last days. Um, she thought that there is like a different way out, unfortunately, but there's always just something else, and to this day, like her death is still remaining a mystery. Um, but I it's it's a lot, like I know. And like the last theory is that and this is just super super like far fetched. Um, is that Elisa Lam was sent to California to research the tuberculosis outbreak on Skid Row. Um, the formal name of the shot taken to prevent tuberculosis is LAM dash Alisa, which is Elisa Lam's full name backwards. So the internet sleuths also found that the University of British Columbia had specialized in, guess what, tuberculosis. Um, so yeah, I mean, I know it kind of sounds super super far fetched that maybe she was someone that might have found something out, and she ended up um, finding out too much, and they might have done something to her. Might have been a cover up. Who knows? There's so many things to think about, honestly. But it kind of depends on your take of it, what you think really happened to Elisa Lam at that hotel that fateful night? Did she, find something out? Did she meet someone? Did something meet her? It's kind of your take on it. I truly don't think we'll ever really know exactly what happened that night, but if you ever want to check out the hotel, the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, it's up to you. But yeah, so that's kind of my take on the Elisa Lam case, of the crime scene, the vanishing at the Cecil Hotel on Netflix right now. Definitely go check it out. It's a really good series if you kind of like this stuff. And yeah, let me kind of just give you my top 3 real quick. So my top 3 shows or movies on Netflix right now is definitely going to be it's called Marianne, I believe. Yeah. Sorry, it's actually a French story. Marianne is about a famous horror writer who is lured back to her hometown and discovers the evil spirit that plagues her dreams and is now wreaking havoc in the real world. So basically, it's about this writer that writes this book, and everything that she writes in the book comes to life. Can you imagine? So it's definitely really worth watching. It's pretty scary, I'm not gonna lie. I personally binged it. It was so good. Waiting for season 2. But yeah, definitely check that one out. Another thing that you could also watch right now is definitely going to be Witch. The Witch is basically it's kind of like the old timey era with like the Pilgrims kind of like vibe where there's like a curse in like their family. The Pilgrims homesteading on the edge of the primeval New England forest become increasingly paranoid that there's a witch in presence. It's honestly really scary. I was not expecting that. It's really, really creepy. So if you have the time to watch it, I definitely recommend watching that. I will put a link for you to check out all these different movies / shows. And the last thing I wanted to go ahead and mention was definitely check out what is it? I believe it is called Diary or Jane Doe. Sorry, Autopsy of Jane Doe. There we go. Autopsy of Jane Doe is a father and son team of a small town coroners performing a autopsy on a unidentified woman, and strange things just start happening. It's pretty interesting, honestly. I definitely recommend checking that out. Like I said, I will send a link to that. It's something else. Definitely check that out. But I did want to go ahead and just say, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate the opportunity to, let you guys know more about the different sides of the world, the mystery and the mundane. But yeah, like I said, my name is Andrew. Thank you so much for listening to the GSMC television podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, that'd be really appreciated. But yeah, thank you so much. Like I said, I'll make sure to keep those links out for you to watch, by yourselves. And like I said, definitely check out that Cecil Hotel documentary on Netflix. But besides that, it's been great, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.